y'all talked about this with Dr. Drake, but what did we talk about yesterday?
The
Flag. So I figured it might be good to, we're going to talk about something completely new today, but I figured it might be good to reread this to remind ourselves all the good information we learned about the flag. Deal?
Yeah.
Okay, y'all know this? Let's do it together.
The
The flag. Continue, Judah. 50 stars for 50 states on a field of blue, with 13 stripes of red and white made for me and you. Great. So we are going to talk about another American symbol today. So yesterday we talked about the flag, and today we're going to talk about something different. It is called, you can turn and face the smartboard again. It is called the Statue of Liberty. Yeah, I heard someone say it. That's great.
I said that.
So this is a picture of the Statue of Liberty. And what do we notice about her? What do we notice about the statue?
She's holding something in her hand.
Raise your hand and I'll call on you. Raise your hand and I'll call on you. Malachi. Lovely is raising her hand so well. What do you notice about the Statue of Liberty, Lovely?
It's to stand our state.
Okay. So looking at the actual picture that I have of her here, what do we notice about her? Vivian, what do you notice?
Me?
Yes.
That she's holding something and she has spikes on her crown.
Okay, so she's
Something.
Yeah, that's great. Both of those are great. So she has, everyone see this crown right here? She has a crown and it has spikes. So this is her crown. And it has 7 spikes. Okay.
I can show you a question.
I'm not going to call on you for talking about it. And then what else do we notice? Ada, what do you notice about the Statue of Liberty?
That it's holding like something big with fire. Stop.
Yeah, so she's holding something that's on fire. Does anyone know what this is called? Sam, what's that called?
A torch.
A torch. So she's holding a torch. That's a
I got actual question.
good word. JVS, what is your question for me?
I've been inside her before.
You've been inside the Statue of Liberty? That's awesome. That's so cool. I've never been up where she is, but I've seen her on a boat. So you went to New York? Oh, well, she's in New York. Real bummer that James isn't here today. This was his day to shine. It's all about New York. I was banking on him to be here. What else do we notice about her? Ju, what do you notice?
She's holding something in her hand.
Yeah, she's holding something. What does it look like to you?
A book.
A book. I think it's a book too.
Because it is a book.
What else do we notice about her? JVS, what do you know? I'm sorry, Jason, what do you notice?
She has the statue clothes on and she's on top of a building.
Okay, so she's got clothes on. She is on top of something. She's really, really high in the air. That's totally right. So yeah, I'm gonna write she's a statue. And she is wearing clothes. Clothes. So she's got this kind of dress thing going on. Anything else that we notice? Jaquan, what do you notice?
If she was the statue that was little, she would have been a real statue and a real person.
Okay, so yeah, so she's not modeled after a real person, but I get what you're saying. Statues are often.
Some move.
Okay.
After the people off the floor, sometimes they slip.
Are you talking about Night at the Museum?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are statues in that movie. Totally right. Okay, JVS. Last thing. What do you notice about her?
In the hall. In the hall.
Maybe her color.
No.
Interesting. Not that. What do you want to say?
If that thing break, it will fall on the floor and break.
Okay. So what do you notice about her?
Nothing. That we would steer inside of. See, she would actually have those like those burger on her.
Oh, okay. She's maybe there's maybe a replica for in a restaurant that you've been to. That's kind of cool. Okay, so I noticed that she's green. She's kind of a weird color. She's like a green. You can put your hands down. She's like a green and blue, and we keep saying she because she's a woman, which is pretty cool.
It's a woman.
So,
She's a green bush.
Miss Moss, I could trade spots with you. I'm sorry. So turn towards me. Sorry, I know I'm being very active today and moving on you. Everyone turn towards me. In your spot, turn towards me. So, we're going to talk today. Caroline, on your bottom. Caroline, on your bottom. We're going to talk today about the Statue of Liberty. And I brought a really fun book to read about the Statue of Liberty for y'all. And it is one of my all-time favorite books. I love this book. But it's nonfiction, so it's all about facts about the Statue of Liberty. But it's really funny and it's really entertaining. But you have to listen and pay attention really well. Have your attentive listening ears on because it says information in kind of it's really funny, but in not a super straightforward way. So you really have to pay attention and listen. So are you all ready? I'm excited to hear this. You have likely heard of a place called France. You can just give me a thumbs up if you have. When you ask questions like that, you can just give me a thumbs up. So some of you have heard of France. That's great. If you've ever heard of France, you may have heard of the French. They are the people who live in France. You may have also heard of something called the Statue of Liberty. Just give me a thumbs up if you have, or thumbs down if you haven't. Thank you. Did you know that the Statue of Liberty comes from France? This is true. This is a factual fact. One day, a Frenchman named Edouard de Labouille. The idea was to celebrate the 100 years of the United States of America had been around by giving them a giant statue. So he convinced another Frenchman, a Frenchman with an Italian name, to design the sculpture.
Oh, cool.
He first made very small models of the sculpture, then larger ones, and finally one that is the one we know, which stands 305 feet above the water. This final full-size version was covered with a thin copper skin. The skin is about as thick as 2 pennies. That is not very thick. Here is a rendering of Bartholdi, who's the man who designed the statue, and his team. He had a team. He did not work alone. He did not like working alone. Constructing the sculpture's hand. Notice that the hand is bigger than these men. Thus, they made the statue in many parts. So, this is the guy who designed it. So that's a man like as tall as I am, and his whole body is sitting in the arm of her. So that's how big she is. His whole body is in her hand. So imagine me, and it's something big enough that it's holding me in its hand. Really big, right? Really, really big.
Like the Statue of Liberty?
Yeah, it is a Statue of Liberty. So just like the Statue of Liberty. These parts were assembled in New York City. No, wait. First, they're assembled in Paris. Did you know this? Ask your friends and even your teachers if they knew that before the Statue of Liberty was assembled in New York, she was first constructed in Paris. Your friends and teachers will be astonished. They will be impressed. They might even think you're fibbing. But you're not fibbing. This really happened. The Statue of Liberty stood there, high above Paris, for almost a year in 1884. So what they're talking about is that French people gave us, America, the Statue of Liberty. And they actually built it in France. So they built this huge, giant sculpture whose just her hand was way bigger than I am. And they assembled her in France and then to take her all the way back down into all of her pieces and parts and then ship it to New York. So it was quite a process. After they assembled the statue in Paris, they took it apart. But we just put it together, the workers said. This is absurd, they said. They said this all in French, the language of the French, a people who appreciate the absurd. So again, these are real life size people in reference to the Statue of Liberty.
Those are the spikes.
So the spike, the spikes on her crown. In 1885, after they took it apart, they put the parts in 214 crates, and they put these crates on a boat. The boat traveled over the Atlantic Ocean and made its way to a city called New York, which is in the state also called New York.
New York, New York.
New York, New York. And we have a friend from New York, right?
Yay!
You may have noticed by now that the pictures of the Statue of Liberty in this book have her color brown. You may have thought the illustrator of this book was not so good at his job because we all know the Statue of Liberty to be a certain greenish blue. The Statue of Liberty was made of copper, and copper starts off brown. So just turn your head and look at the pennies that are on the board. Those two pennies, that's the color of copper. When they first built her, she was all that color of the pennies that we use every morning on the board.
She was brown?
Then, very slowly, when left outside for long periods of time, copper will eventually oxidize, and when it does, it turns this blue-green color. So the Statue of Liberty, Judah, that everyone in New York saw being constructed was actually brown. The Statue of Liberty, in fact, was brown for about 35 years. The statue turned green around 1920, and it's been this color ever since. Perhaps you already knew this. This is the color that it was when they first put her up and built her, and then this is closer to the color that she is now, right? Like the color that we looked at on the board. She's that kind of bluish green. And you may have known that the book the statue is carrying, the one in her left hand, like Judah pointed out, features the date, July 4, 1776, on which the Declaration of Independence was signed. So the book she has in her hand is called the Declaration of Independence, and it's what we signed to become our own country.
I see it. I can see the words.
And you may know that the 7 spikes on her crown represent 7 seas on earth, and the 7 continents, and the sun's rays too. So like Vivian pointed out, she has crowns on top of her head, and there's 7 of them.
Oh, I see it. Spikes, not crowns.
And you probably know that the torch she carries is a symbol of enlightenment, lighting the path to liberty and freedom.
That looks like you mean that real?
Yeah, there's 7 spikes on one crown. Okay, so now I want you to turn to your partner when I say go, and tell them one thing that you learned about the Statue of Liberty. One fact from the book we just read. Okay, go. You touch your one and Ada. Just join this group. Get your partner here. Here, Ada, you turn to Lovely and pick one and Ada. Just say one fact you know. Okay, turn back towards me. The last thing that I want to do, just to help us remember a little bit, is it's not exactly a song because I'm not very musical. It's more of a chant, but I wrote a little chant, a little song for us to do together. It has movements with it, so we can remember all the important things about the Statue of Liberty. Okay, so everyone, very quietly, stand up in your spot and face me. We're gonna do it together. I'm gonna teach you, and then we'll do it together. So it goes like this. Just repeat after me, and then we'll do it all together. I am the Statue of Liberty.
I am the Statue of Liberty.
I have a crown with I have a crown with 7 spikes.
7 spikes.
Yes, let's try that all together. I have a crown with 7 spikes. Good. I hold a book. The Declaration of Independence. And I hold a torch to light the way to liberty. I am the Statue of Liberty. Okay, we'll do it one more time repeating after me, and then we'll try to do it together. You ready? You did a great job the first time. Okay. I am the Statue of Liberty. I wear a crown with 7 spikes. I hold a book, the Declaration of Independence. Big words, y'all are doing great. And I hold a torch to light the way to liberty. I am the Statue of Liberty.